Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. JACALYN. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. JACALYN at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone. It's true. I am always in, whether I'm here on the screen or I am backstage producing or getting ready for the next week of shows. I'm thrilled to have you here on USA Global TV and radio. Our show today is Loving Longevity, and our topic is relevant literally to everyone. The longer we live, are we going to outlive our money? How are we going to plan? Starting today, taking action. We have an expert here to help us with all of the questions that you may have and that I have and that Annie has. So let's welcome Annie Bush, my friend and co-host, to the show.
Well, thank you, Dr. JACALYN, and welcome to everyone, or welcome back. Thank you for joining us at Loving Longevity. You know, we really don't want to outlive our money. You know, being homeless at 120, what kind of life is that?
Exactly. So we need to start planning, as we heard from our guest today, not tomorrow. Today, Annie, we have to do it. So before we bring her out, I'm going to spotlight you. And for people joining us for the first time, whether they're listening or watching or on the podcast platform later, who are you and what is it that you do?
Well, I am Annie Bush, and I am going to encourage you to start today, not only with your financial planning, but with taking care of your health. I have been in the health and wellness space for over 10 years. I worked my way from a personal trainer to a health coach to a certified brain health coach. And now I am a holistic longevity strategist. And what does that mean? Well, I've taken everything that I've learned in those last 10 plus years and using it to help you optimize your health today, to optimize your health for all of your tomorrows. And that's what longevity is all about. It's, adding those years, but adding health and wellness to those years. And one of my tools in the toolbox, and those of you on the radio can't see this, but for the first time in a long time, I have a low neckline on. And I have not wanted to reveal this neckline for years. Why? Because it looked like the Grand Canyon. And we're going to talk about this more on Wednesday's program at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on A Woman's Prerogative. We're going to be talking about stem cells. And I am a total advocate of the LifeWave stem cell activation patches. And what does this have to do with my décolleté? Well, these little patches, and I'm showing on the camera now, they're about 1 inch in diameter, and you'll see there's a little crystal matrix, and we'll explain the science about this later, but that little crystal matrix actually activates your stem cells. And with my skin, basically it created new skin, not on the top, not like when you go to a salon and they do all this fancy stuff at the top layer of your skin. No, the stem cells create new skin down deep. And now that new skin has revealed itself. And so now I can show my décolleté. People on the radio are probably thinking, what is she talking about? No, it's my skin on my décolleté really it had age spots. It had, those deep ridges in it. And now it's clear and smooth. And I am just a happy girl now because at 62, I don't have an 80-year-old décolleté.
Woohoo! Let's hear it for that. Looking good, Annie Bush. I love it. That's fabulous. It is interesting what happens. You start getting lines. It's like, what is this? Where did this come from?
We take care of this. And for people on the radio, I'm pointing to my face. We spend all this money exfoliating and doing all this up here. But our age shows on our hands and on our décolleté and our arms. And oh, yes.
You're right. And we start wearing turtlenecks. We're wearing gloves. Hello, it's summer. What are you doing? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yes. That's when I created crew necks, Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Well, let's bring out our guests, because this is a topic, as I mentioned, this is red hot. It's something that we all need to think about as we live longer. We cannot outlive our money. We're not going to be in a good place. So our guest today is a personal finance group coach, a social justice advocate, a certified financial planner practitioner. And you can find the website allthecolors.net with more information. So let's welcome our guest, Yanez. Hello.
Hi, thank you, Dr. JACALYN and Annie, for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation with both of you.
So
yes.
am I. So am I. You know, a couple of things that people don't like to talk about are their age and their money, right?
Definitely.
You do not want to talk about their money. So, what is it that drew you to this field? What was your calling to help people in this area?
I mean, you just said it, right? People don't want to talk about it, and yet it's something that bothers them. So many of us have gone through a point of our lives where we're just like not sleeping well. We're having arguments with our partners, where we're stressed out about our day-to-day decisions. And it's important to take a step back, see what we're doing today, and make sure that it's taking us to where we want to go.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And you have education and experience in these areas, right?
Right. So as a certified financial planner, it took about 2 years to get the training done, like the educational component of it. Then you have to pass an exam, which has about a 50-50 pass rate. Like a lot of people, the first time they take it, they don't pass. It's pretty rigorous. And on top of that, you need to work under an existing certified financial planner for 2 years, right? So there are pretty strict requirements. Also, as a certified financial planner, you're under the fiduciary standard, which means that whatever I do for my clients has to be in their best interest. This compares to a lot of other places where it's what they call the suitability standards. So for anyone out there who's considering working with a financial advisor on their investments or any part of their financial planning, make sure that they're a fiduciary. Make sure that your best interest is what's being held up first. Otherwise, they're liable. Otherwise, you can sue them.
I was just going to say, I just had a little flashback to law school when you started talking about your fiduciary responsibilities, but I didn't even put the two of them together. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that you just mentioned that, I didn't really even think about when this topic was going to come up is the stress that's associated with finances, the stress on your relationships. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned, not sleeping. So the stress keeping you up at night. So when you see people, is this what you're seeing?
That's often what makes people come to us, right? To you as a health coach, to myself as a financial coach, it's because they're recognizing what they're doing today is not working. Like there's something, they're at that point of like, okay, I'm done. I'm done trying to figure this out on my own. I'm done doing whatever it was my uncle told me to do with my investments. I actually want to have a plan that makes sense for me. So there's tons of research about how financial stress can be a leading indicator of mental health challenges. So that's what called me in. I just want to see people have a system for their money where they don't have to think about their money anymore, right? And there's research done that no matter what your income is, I mean, there are extremes. If your income's way too low, if you're worried about putting food on the table, housing, that's a different environment. But for many of us that are not there, you could be earning $500,000 a year and still be living paycheck to paycheck. So mindset, your confidence is really important. More money doesn't solve anything if you're not doing something different with that.
And we hear about this many times with celebrities that they spend all of their money. Nobody can believe they're making how much, and they just overspend. So question I have for you, and I know we talked about this briefly backstage, but some people watching or listening might think, I'm too young. I don't have to worry about that now. I'm too old. I don't have to worry about that. I'm married. She's taking whomever. What are your thoughts about this?
We all need to be responsible for our own money, and you need to start today. Whatever it is that, like, if there is something that's stressing you out about your money, let's say you are having a child, right? You just got pregnant and you and your family are going to have a kid. it's important to think about what's going to happen to them if you're not there, if something were to happen to you. And here I'm talking about insurance. Like, it's just kind of like whatever area in your life is changing, make sure that your money is changing in a way that it supports it. So there I talked about insurance. If you're too young to start thinking about the long term, it's important to learn about compound interest, which means that if you're investing, whatever you invest now, it might be little, right? You might be putting $100, $50 a month into your investing account, but that $50 is going to grow. And slowly with compound interest, it's going to continue to grow, and you're going to be much further ahead if you start young and are consistent. You're older and are thinking about retirement. What is that going to look like for you when you're no longer working? It's important to see, like, how much does it cost for you to have your lifestyle now? What are your housing expenses? What is the groceries, your vacation, your gifting during the holidays? And how can you make sure that you can continue that moving forward? So now is the time.
So, this is Loving Longevity, and a lot of our audience, so we're around that 50-year-old mark.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just take a traditional couple, right? And they're 50 and they're thinking about retiring, let's say at 65. Well, if we're going to plan to live to be 100,
Mm-hmm.
so what are you telling the 50-year-olds that are coming into your office?
I mean, I love that. When people think about the long term and they're thinking of living until they're 100, I love that, because it makes you be more proactive, both with your health and with your money, right? Because you've got a longer term time horizon. If you're thinking about retirement 10, 15 years from now, it's a really good time to make sure that you're putting away as much as possible for your investing. One of the general rules of thumb when you start to withdraw money, to take money out of your portfolio, is about 4%. So you can take out safely about 4% of your income every year, and know that there's going to be enough there for the long term. And it's changing right now. Inflation is a big topic. It's at 8% after having been at 2% for a long time, which means that maybe it's not going to be 4% at the time that you're ready to retire. Maybe it's going to be 3%. And what does that mean in numbers? So 4% of $1 million is $40,000 a year. 3% is $30,000 a year. If you have $1 million and you're safely withdrawing between $30,000 to $40,000, is that enough to cover your lifestyle? You also have to think about Social Security. How much is that going to give you? And you can go to the Social Security website and download the projection of what you'll be receiving if you continue to earn what you're earning right now. Right. It can be really helpful to have an expert, to have a financial advisor work with you as you're making these decisions. And if you like to do it yourself, there's a lot of really good resources out there. There's a lot of financial planners like myself who are always happy to have a conversation just to vet what you're doing, to see if there's any areas that you're missing.
Thank you so much. We actually have a comment from a Facebook user. Great to see women empowerment. Yes. If you would type your name and where you're watching from, we would love that, because we can't see who you are. You're in Dr. JACALYN's Health and Wellness group, I think. Okay. Yeah. Fantastic.
And I have a comment on that, actually. In financial services industry, it's about 20% women, 80% men. And that number has not shifted in over a decade. Right. We do need more women in this field. So I'm going to make a PSA announcement here. If there's any women who are considering financial services as a career, it's a wonderful career. You really get to make an important impact in people's life. Like I mentioned at the beginning, that financial stress, it's huge. So for those of us as women, I started off as a social worker, actually. And like my social working heart now gets to give back in this area of people's life, which is their money.
It's so important. It's wonderful. Fabulous. What are your thoughts about passive income?
Always a good idea, right? And what are the sources of passive income? It could be like yourself right now, Dr. JACALYN, all the intellectual property that you're creating, all of the important content that you're creating. This is going to be a source of passive income at some point. You don't have to create content for your old content to be creating money for you, right? Income. So that's one source of it. A lot of us think of real estate, and traditionally that's been something that's easy to understand. You buy a house, you rent it out, you've got this income coming in. when you're thinking about real estate as passive income, make sure that you understand what the maintenance of it is going to be, what the property tax is, all of these other little things that it's best to know ahead of time before you sign the dotted line. Other forms of passive income are writing books. It's creating anything that you don't have to work yourself in order for it to produce income. And a really important way too is your portfolio, right? All of your investments. Like I mentioned at the beginning, that 4% withdrawal rule, that's a source of passive income. You're not having to exchange your time, your hours for money.
Absolutely true. And I have spent so many hours creating passive income streams with courses and writing books and music. And it gives me some peace of mind that it's someday these things are really going to take off. What are your thoughts for people who are thinking, at least we have a global platform, but for here in the United States, looking at the stock market or looking at the price of gold, people can't look at a specific moment in time, right? You have to make these investments and hold them for the long haul. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. And first, for people who right now are living off of their portfolio, I just want to say, it can be really scary when the market takes a downturn the way that it has right now. And again, this is where planning in advance makes a lot of sense. If you're living off of your portfolio right now and you see the market dip, I want you to know, or I want you to consider what the planning was you did a year ago, months ago, 5 years ago, knowing that, because I'm sure whenever you did that planning, my hope is that whenever you did that planning, you understood that the market is volatile, right? So it may be dipping, but if that was worked into your plan, you're going to be okay. Over time, the market has continued to go up since the 1920s, 1880s, whenever they started to measure it. And that it can be hard to say, in the long run, it's going to be okay when today feels kind of catastrophic. So,
yes.
But at the end of the day, the U.S. market is strong.
It's true. I was just going to say, I have some investment in real estate and in gold. And I just I look every now and then, I'll take a look. I just looked the other day for the gold. I was like, I'm not going to look anymore. But it'll come back. It always does. We have a strong economy here in this country. So for people who are out there, just when you're planning, you want to work with somebody who knows what they're doing, because otherwise you could just be eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Should I put my money here or where?
Mm-hmm. And, our generations, we're old enough, young enough to remember 2008 and what happened then. And I think that adds to the fear, stress levels too.
Yeah. And it's interesting. So in my work at All the Colors, I don't specifically focus on advising people on their investing, but that was a past life. I did do that as a financial planner when I worked at a registered investment advisory firm. And there, when the pandemic started, actually, March of 2020, we saw the market drop 20%, 30% in 1 month. It was really, really quick. It did surprisingly rebound very quickly within the same year. We've actually had a really strong market in 2020, 2021. If you look even back further, since 2011, I think it's been a really strong market. And the thing is that things change. Right. There's a lot of people in the market who've been saying it's at the top for a decade. And maybe that's what we're seeing now, that correction. Again, if you're living off of your investments today, make sure that you did planning ahead of time to know that these ups and downs are part of investing. For those of us who are not living off of our investments, so for myself, I'm 34, I'm putting money away for retirement, but I'm not living off of it. This could be a really good time to invest more, right? When the market's down is when you want to buy because things are on sale, as they say.
Good direction. Thank you. We're going to take a quick break right now, and then we'll come back, and we have lots more to discuss. And if anyone has any questions that they want to ask, I see on the various platforms people are watching now. Usually people are watching whenever they want to watch, but there are people live right now. So we'd love to hear from you. Just type in your question. Okay. We will be right back after this. can put aside, there are things that you can do, and working with a professional like you is always a fabulous option. So we are going to talk now a little bit about when we get to be a certain age and we're starting a new business. So let's say we are 50 and we are now starting a business. What kind of tips can you give?
I think first off, congratulations, right? Whenever someone has a business in their heart that they want to bring out to the world and you take the leap and you start, like, you're going to learn so much from it. And I mean, I'd love to also hear about your experience, because it sounds like you're both entrepreneurs, but some of the things that I can say is make sure that you have a plan of like how you're going to support yourself as the business gets started. That's huge, right? Making sure that that you have enough like funds set aside or a source of income set aside as you get started will make it easier to you to focus on being creative, growing your audience, getting customers. Another really key thing is to make sure you have health insurance coverage, right? So if you were getting health insurance before through your employer, figure out how much it's going to cost for you to either have COBRA or for you to get it through the marketplace, and have a lot of social support, because when you're starting a business, there's a lot that you can do, but as it's growing, it's super important to have cheerleaders around you and to surround yourself with people who inspire you, like what you see here on Global TV. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on it too, Annie and Dr. JACALYN.
Well, this topic is near and dear to our hearts, because Dr. JACALYN and myself are entrepreneurs, over 50. And the way I think about this is, as an entrepreneur, in the beginning, and Dr. JACALYN, you can probably relate, there is more money going out than there is coming in. And, even, taxes. Right? Trying to figure out how much money to set aside for taxes. So do you counsel people that are starting new businesses as to how to put all these little pieces in place as they're starting out?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely taxes. I mean, the rule of thumb is put a third away, which might be a little high, but you never know how well your business is going to do, right? So maybe the first couple of months it's starting off slowly, and at the end of the year it's gone off and it's doing really well. And you've got all of this, and you've had this giant tax bill that'll surprise you. But if you're putting a third away from the beginning, you'll know that you have the money there to pay that tax bill. And if it turns out that it's not doing as well as you thought it would, well, you have the savings to reinvest back into your business.
Wow, a third. That does sound high. Oof.
That's high. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, if that's
it's between 20% to a third, depending on what your income level is going to be, right? So that's where you want to look. And having a good tax advisor as you're starting out is really important. Making sure that you have liability insurance. That's another thing to consider, which is another cost. Yet insurance is one of those things that it's meant to help you sleep at night. It's meant to help you know that in the worst case, you're covered.
Oh, yeah, I think my liability insurance policy was probably the first thing that I got as a personal trainer. Kind of makes sense.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. I have to say, for me, I was in corporate up until 2020, and I never thought about health insurance. They deducted something out of my paycheck, and that was a major eye opener, because I have 3 autoimmune conditions, which are all in remission, thank goodness. But when I started looking, I need to see this doctor, that doctor, this doctor. Now that I changed my lifestyle around, I don't need to see the doctors. Yay. But that was a big thing. And then having an attorney, an accountant, and taxes, and even to have a registered agent, all the things that you have to do, getting Dr. JACALYN registered, getting USA Global TV registered, all that costs money. And then I have a list somewhere of all the subscription fees that I have to pay for this platform. It's like $2,000+ a month just to keep the thing running. So if you are coming from a position where you don't have any savings or any investments to draw from, I might rethink it, because in the beginning, at least for me, I started Dr. JACALYN LLC in 2019, which is my coaching practice. And it was a hobby at the time. I had a couple of clients, but I had my corporate career. And, the career had the paycheck every 2 weeks. The paycheck went right in the bag. So nice. And then when you actually become a business, it's a whole other story.
Yeah, I know. I've had to be really flexible with my own. I'm actually 6 months into my full-time entrepreneur career. Before that, I worked in corporate too. And I started All the Colors spring of 2020. Actually, like when we got sent home, I all of a sudden had no more social life, right? Pandemic, you're staying home. And I was working from home. So I had a little bit of downtime, and I started to just focus on how else do I want to give back? I'm a Latina, so I wanted to give back to my community, and that's where all the colors got started. But it wasn't until this year that I went out on my own. And one of the things that I did to give myself peace of mind, because I am pretty conservative with my finances, I moved to Mexico. I like cut my cost of living down by 2/3 by moving to Oaxaca. So I'm in Oaxaca, which is closer to Guatemala than it is to the US. And that's giving me a lot of space to not focus so much on what's coming in, and instead focus on making sure that I have a really strong foundation for the service that I want to provide to my clients, to my participants. So we can always be really creative in what we're doing.
I love that. And also the fact that you started during the pandemic. I started during the pandemic. It's amazing how many women, I saw you too. It's,
Wow.
we're out there. It's fabulous. And that creativity that you have, that you decided to move and cut your costs so that you could focus on what's important and not, how am I going to pay the bills?
Yeah, the bills are 2/3 lower.
Right. And, we talked, earlier that there's the ratio of financial planners is 20% women to 80%. Who is out there now at the 50-year-old mark starting their second half of their lives and having to look at now their finances for another 50 years?
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of the purpose of this program is to give women the courage and the confidence to come to you to ask for advice and say, okay, I want to do this. Help me make it happen. Tell me what I need to do. Instead of letting those unanswered questions stop them from pursuing their dreams.
It's really one of the key things when it comes to money. And it's the same in health. It's mindset, right? You can know that you're supposed to eat, like half my plate is supposed to be vegetables, half the other quarter protein, and then grains, right? I know that like makes sense, but do I do it? Not all the time, right? So how do you change the mindset to make it easier for you to build the thing that you want to build? When it comes to money, it's very similar. So congratulations, you're starting your own business. Now let's find out if there's any limiting beliefs that are holding you back. Do you have any beliefs around like, as women, we often undercharge. We're often just so happy to have a client that we don't think about all of the value that we're bringing. So instead of focusing so much on your hourly rate, consider the value that you're bringing your client. How much impact is this creating for them? That's one key thing to look at. It's also really important to build rest into your life. As an entrepreneur, we live in a society that can be so focused on producing, but you don't want to burn out, right? That first year, those first 3 years, they can be really long years. So make sure that, like I mentioned at the beginning, that you have a lot of social support and that you're giving yourself rest as you're doing this.
Rest. Wow. Is that a 4-letter word? No, I'm kidding.
Yes, it is.
Come on, it needs to be part of our lives. If you want to live another 50 years, you're going to want to enjoy the next 50 years, right? It's not just work.
And and I'm so glad that you mentioned the value. We as women undervalue who we are. And I talked about this, I think on another podcast, but when we get to our age, or even your age, we're an accumulation of every skill set that we have ever acquired. And there is quality in those skill sets. And we don't think of them. We just keep thinking of charging an hourly rate. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, about that women, normally we undercharge, and it's that limiting belief.
Yeah. And doing things differently. Like it's important to, when you're starting a business, it's important to, again, step back, know how much you need for the business to provide for you. How many clients do you need in order to set the value, in order to set the income goals, right? So for example, if you know that your fixed expenses of this website, of this platform that you have, are $2,000 a month, and you need to bring in at least that much. And then you need to consider all of the other expenses of your lifestyle, and then think, this is how many hours I have that are billable. How much do I need to earn in those hours in order to set your rates? Right.
Yeah. I'd love to talk a little bit about the work that you do as a personal finance group coach. Can you speak to that?
Yes. So I really love group coaching because one of the easiest ways to create new habits, to create new behaviors, is to join a group of people who are already doing the thing that you want to do. Right? There's research. I remember reading Atomic Habits by James Clear, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. So habits really build most of our life, whether it be in your health or in your wealth. What you'll like fall down to the level of your systems. Like whatever systems you have in place is what you're going to continue to do. So that's one key part. And by joining a group of people who are developing better habits, it'll be easier for you to stay accountable. Instead of it just you being willpower, white knuckling your way through, it's actually like we break things down into really manageable chunks so that you can get started and continue. Because again, health, wealth, these are things that have to do more with patience and persistence than get rich quick schemes. A lot of those get rich quick schemes, like crash diets, you end up crashing after them. So in my group coaching, it's a 6-month program. It's called Bosque Money. And the group is between 8 to 12 people. I just had the pilot that's halfway through right now. And we focus, like I said, on mindset. We focus on identifying those limiting beliefs and replacing them, right? It's those old stories that may have been holding you back and either asking for your value or getting the insurance set up or the estate, like whatever the technical area of your life that you haven't dealt with financially. There's a limiting belief behind it. So we work a lot on replacing those with new money stories. And it's one thing for you to come to a group, for you to listen to a podcast and be like, yes, I'm going to do that. It's another thing for you to continuously implement it, right? Every time you're making a health decision, either to go for that walk or to sit down and watch television, those are the places where I help people create strategies, create systems, create practices so that they can continue to improve their financial situation. And as much as I'm talking about strategies, it's also important to understand what need you're actually feeling. Sometimes people think that more money is going to solve a lot of their issues, but you have to be really careful what you're asking money to do, right? If you're not happy with your career, but you think, well, once I get a raise, it'll be better. You get the raise, and after a few months, you're used to it. You have to step back and look at those questions more deeply. And it's easier to do that when you're held in community. It's easier to step back when you know that people around you are supporting you. So again, that's the power of community. We all want to belong. We all want to be able to show up as we are. And it can be hard to do when it comes to money, yet in Bosque Money, that's the space that I'm creating.
Thank you very much. A question I have, and I've seen this with all people, all ages, it comes up that people are in denial about their financial situation, or they don't actually want to address it. Let's say, oh, everything's fine. Well, meanwhile, they're upside down and they're just so afraid to tell someone else because they're ashamed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we see that all the time, right? And I think all of us have experienced that in our financial life at some point or another, where we're like, I can't believe I made that decision. And that feeling of shame, like you said, and Brene Brown, whose vulnerability research says that shame is the fear of not belonging, of being excluded from the tribe. And we don't grow up in a society that teaches us how to do money. They don't teach us how to do health either. Like often what we're just told is more is better, get more stuff. And that doesn't actually fill, at least it doesn't fill me. And the clients that I worked with, it doesn't fill them either. So addressing that shame that we may have about money experiences, it's not so much what happened, but what you learned from it. One of my favorite authors is Clarissa Pinkola Estes. She wrote Women Who Run with the Wolves. And she says that it's not failure that holds us back, but it's that inability or that unwillingness to get back up. That failure is actually a bigger teacher than success. So think back to those money decisions that were failures and consider what they taught you. One of the most painful experiences that I've gone through with money was actually with my mom. My mom, when I was going to college, we weren't well off financially. So I had gotten a lot of scholarships and I wanted to help my mom. So I gave her the profit from the scholarship. I gave her about 10 grand. And she, someone at her work told her of a really good investing opportunity. And they walked off with the money. And my mom didn't know. She didn't understand it. She trusted him. They were co-workers. He took the money and ran. And I had a lot of like anger towards her. She had a lot of shame, but with time we realized it was from that she never did that again. Obviously, she always learned to get things in writing, to like vet things out with other people who knew about investing. As an immigrant, like this is one of the things that happens when you move to a different country where you don't understand the financial system. And again, as women, sometimes we can be a little bit too trusting. He was, and also, I mean, just con artists they're artists. They're really good at what they do. So when people come to me, and if they had a story similar to what happened with me and my mom, again, it's focusing on what did you learn from it? And knowing that at the end of the day, whatever the negative financial repercussion was, there's ways to move through it. I mean, think of our former president, right? Trump filed bankruptcy a couple of times, and he was still able to make it through. No matter what's going on, you're alive. You can make it through. You can make it to a new day.
Thank you for sharing that. I forget the exact expression, but there's no limit to money, right? It comes, it goes. And when we have this attachment to it, I found it clouds everything. So as an entrepreneur, there have been many times when I would wake up and go, oh, how am I going to pay the bills? What am I going to do? And I would say to myself, just keep doing what you're doing. The money will come. And it does. So that's been my experience. I'd love to share your website in the last couple of minutes that we have. How would you feel about that?
Yeah, please. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Let me just share my screen. All right. Have I pulled up the right website?
This is it. This is it. Feel confidence in your money decisions.
Okay. So I'm over here on the website. Just tell me where to go, what you'd like me to show.
Let's scroll down to where it says join community coaching. Right. So the community coaching, one of the things that I send off is this wooden box, because it's 100% a virtual program. And by sending something that they're going to touch in person, a lot of the people that I work with are pretty anxious and nervous around money. So we put all of their money things in this container. It creates, I mean, a lot of the times we know what a container is as coaches, right? Like, this is the space where we come to talk about this. This is the way that we interact with each other. Well, now here's a container where you can put away all that mail that you don't want to read, where you can put away all those bills, when you can put away all those concerns that you have around money. And then we come together as a community and work on them. And this starts to create a really positive relationship with your money. Again, like I said, 80% of what we do with money is habit. It's mindset. So by giving people a physical box, that's my idea. I love boxes. I love journals. I love being able to be creative. And I have people do a lot of drawing and journaling, actually, because we're trying to get to that part of them that is not held back by their current circumstances. I also have a quote on here by Bell Hooks. Like I mentioned at the beginning in my introduction, social justice is really important for me to do well individually, and to know that my community is not doing well. That doesn't fill me, if that makes sense. Like, I want to make sure that the collective is also doing well. Otherwise, you get put into a situation where, like, maybe I'm doing well and I've got all these fences around me. I'm living in this gated community. I'm living in this gated country to make sure that nobody else comes and takes my stuff. But there's another way of looking at it. We can change our consciousness. And Bell Hooks here, she says that rarely, if ever, are any of us healed in isolation. Healing is an act of communion. And when it comes to our money, again, there needs to be a healing that happens to it. There needs to be us taking back our agency, taking back our power. That experience that I shared up with my mom, it brought us closer in the end, and it is really part of my calling of why I do this work. I know she was trying to take care of us with this decision that she made, and it was short-sighted. But yet, in the long run, look at what it's made for me. Now here I am doing this work, following this calling to make sure that kind of thing doesn't happen again.
That's just beautiful. That is beautiful. I love the idea of the box.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So here's the introduction on me. You can join Bull Skin Money. We've got a 6-month process, and the outcome is that people are going to feel more confident in their money decisions. They're going to have a really clear way of moving forward with, because there's so many different things that are out there, but I help people break it down into really manageable chunks so that they're focusing on progress, right? As entrepreneurs, a lot of the times, especially at the beginning, you're just focusing on creating systems rather than the outcome. You can't control how many people sign up for your product, but you can control how good of an experience it is for them and how effective and how transformative it is. Yeah. Yeah, my short little bio, and then I've got a list of like, are you wondering whether this is the right thing for you? And there's a couple of questions in there to consider.
In your pilot program, basically, what are the age ranges of the folks that are in there?
I had someone from 19 up to 63, and I had everyone from a transgender POC to a white man. So really my focus is more on values. It's focused more on making sure that it's for people who have tried doing it on their own and they haven't been able to, and they're now really in that point of like, I need to take action and I want community, and I want to know how my doing well is good for my community and how my community doing well is good for me.
Absolutely. Because the money, we all benefit when the money flows.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when it moves. If you're putting it underneath your mattress, it's not benefiting anybody.
Right.
Good point. This has been really a fascinating topic, and I know we're just getting to the tip of it. So I'd love to have you come back on this or a business show or any of our other shows where you feel it would be a great fit. And I'm going to spotlight you now. If you could give your contact information, especially for people who can't read the banner, they're listening on the radio, that would be fabulous.
Yeah, so my email address is Diana, DIANA, at allthecolors.net. That's .net. I am active on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And actually for Instagram, I'm going to start doing money journey sessions. It'll be a live session. We're having our first one next Thursday at 11 a.m. Central Time. I'll be interviewing one of my fellow, I'm part of a meditation group. And I'll be interviewing Lily Kerrigan, who's a comedian and a meditator. And you can continue to follow me on Instagram to find out about other people's money stories.
Fantastic. Thank you for being here.
It's been a pleasure. Lovely to meet both of you.
It's great meeting, and thank you so much for coming on. I've been so looking forward to talking about this subject. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Yes, we look forward to seeing you again. All right. Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. All right, Annie, thank you so much for bringing her to the program. This topic is really crucially important for everyone, really.
And she is so knowledgeable in not only the financial aspects of it, but the emotional aspects and the mental aspects and the societal aspects of it. For her as young as she was, you know, she really has a good grasp on the big picture.
Yes. I am so happy that you brought her here, and also that you're here. Tell us a little bit about any offer that you might have for our audience.
Well, I talked about the stem cell activation patches. If you are interested, and I was talking about my skin and how much better it is, but on a more serious level, what the stem cell activation patches do is they actually reverse the age of your cells, which means yes, for a healthier life, to getting rid of disease, to helping you reverse aging at a cellular level. And we are going to be talking about this more, Dr. JACALYN, on Wednesday's program of A Woman's Prerogative. So we're going to be talking in much more depth about the stem cell activation patches. But if you would like to get yours now, you can go to the website is lifewave.com/timeless aging. That's www.lifewave, LIFEWAVE.com/timeless aging. Or the easiest thing to do is just contact me via email so we can chat at yourtotalbody@yahoo.com. Again, that's yourtotalbody@yahoo.com.
Thank you, Annie.
Thank you so much for having me. We're going to have another great guest next week too. Oh my gosh.
Yay!
Yay! We're bringing a man on the program.
Okay. Wow. I look forward to that. Fantastic.
Yeah, his name's Greg Gerber, and he has a website. It's called Forward from 50. He helps people from 50 pursuing their dreams.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, I look forward to learning from him as well. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you. You have a great weekend. Everybody out there, have a great weekend. Yes. See you on Wednesday.
Bye. Thank you to all of you who are watching or listening, whether it's on the live or the replay. I personally do appreciate it. And in case you're new to our channel, whether it's on the radio, TV, or podcast, I really appreciate you and I thank you. We have 27 live shows a week, and that is only going to increase. And what you'll find on a number of the shows that USA Global TV, it's not all about me. It is my channel. I am the owner and the founder and the president, the producer, the director, but I want people to have their own shows. I want people to come on, whether you have your own show topic or you want us to put you into one. Come on board, because that's what this is all about as we continue to grow. We are a global platform. We have hosts from all over the world. So if you want to learn more about the shows that we offer, please go to our website, usaglobaltv.com. You can also go there to book your session. In addition to having this platform, I also have Dr. JACALYN LLC, or drjacalyn.com, and I help people learn how to listen at an elevated level. I am known as the listening mentor. So if you and your organization are interested in having people learn how to listen without judging other people, without providing a solution, without interrupting, and without the dreaded stage hogging, which is where you're telling a story and then someone else says, oh, I was on a trip, let you tell me about your trip. And then all of a sudden, it's all, you're standing there saying, hey, I started to talk and nobody's listening to me. So if you're interested in that, or if you're interested in life coaching, career coaching, please go over to drjacalyn.com. I also have my 2 Amazon #1 best-selling books. I just received the updated versions today, and this is green, and we're in a green screen, so it's hard to see, but now you see my registered mark and #1 Amazon best-selling author. This book is about how and why I left the corporate world, and it's not what you would think, how I started this platform with no experience whatsoever, when I was told over and over again, you're never going to be able to do it. And so there we are, haha. And my second book, Adversity to Awesome. This book just came out in May, and this is 12 chapters. Each of them is about a different author's story. My chapter is the first chapter about something that happened to me decades ago that I kept to myself, and I lived in shame, and I think it affected my health. And now I put it out there for other people to come forward and share their stories. Okay, the sirens are going. It's time to go. Our next show is coming right after this. So thank you again, and we will be right back with Pet Psychic Amina, and we're going to talk about sustainability and how all creatures have a right to be here, and we need to respect all of them, each and every one. Thanks again. Bye for now.